Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Cocoa Blend Podcast. I am your host, Jamie Newton Knight, Motherhood Mastery Mentor, and I am here with an amazing and special guest, Miss Shana Robinson. I'm so blessed to have you. Hi, Shana.
Hey, how's it going, Jamie?
Good, good, good. So tell the people, introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm an image consultant and brand strategist. I am a mother of two. One is biologically mine, and one is a bonus son. They have a 15-year age range. So my oldest is going to be 18 in a matter of weeks. My bonus son and my son, Cairo, is 3 right now. So,
Wow. Listen, we love that. And that age range, girl, I know that age range very well. My children are the youngest is 10 and the oldest is 31. So
yep,
we
split.
yeah, yeah. They're like the big sibling. The two older ones are like extra moms and dads for the
Yes,
little ones.
yes.
They're very helpful. They're very helpful. So Shayna, what part of the blended family or the co-parenting journey did you find, I guess, the biggest challenges in?
So I think that they were challenges and blessings all in one, if I can really say that. So, with my bonus son, my partner was really great at kind of protecting me from, any discussions that I didn't need to be a part of as a bonus parent. Right. I think, especially on social media, a lot you see the new partners getting involved in stuff that you really have no business being a part of. My only job with my bonus son was to love him and to be an additional person to care for him and support him and to champion and advocate for him. So while it was hard that there wasn't always a nice relationship facilitated there, I was very much protected in the sense that, you know what, I've got this. I'm protecting every member of my family in that way. When we had Cairo and our family grew, it was sad that you can't have your kids all together at the same time. Of course, our oldest spends time with his mom, also, comes and spends time with us. But, moments like this, they're both downstairs. He's actually watching the little one right now. And I love that they get to be brothers and be together. This past year, we had a challenging time in our family in 2024. There was a moment of co parenting. And the hardest part is that your family is not together anymore fully. And that there's a lot of I'm going to take a lot of ownership in the fact that there's a lot of things that I didn't do prior to in my relationship to ensure that we could all be together. And so when that co-parenting season happened, because I'm in Canada, my partner's in the States. And so when that happened, there was a lot of forgiveness on both sides that needed to happen, a lot of discussion. I think that sometimes when you have kids, you don't even plan on how you're going to raise the kids, or talk about what you want to instill or any of that or what it looks like. So there was a lot of healing, a lot of forgiveness, a lot of humbling ourselves to say, okay, we want to make this work. And so we've been able to reunite, rekindle, and work on things from a very different perspective.
Wow. Like I kind of like so many factors, right? So I love that you said from the beginning that you were shielded from the things that weren't really, not to say that didn't involve you, but kind of didn't involve you, because the reality is that there was a relationship that had happened with two people that created a child before you got there. And so yes, there is that dynamic where we already have this thing going, and if it's working, it's working, right? I like that he protected you from whatever that was, because sometimes we may not know what that dynamic is, or if it may be harmful for us to, to step into. A lot of people that I know deal with high conflict bio moms. And so the separation is necessary, right? And so I understand that totally, that you were like, okay, this is not my business. Let me try to stay over here. But I also love that you were like, my job was not to get into all of that, but to make sure that when he's here, that he felt like a whole person, that he felt loved, that he felt like we all cared about him, and then just creating that safe environment for him. So I really love that. And healing is so necessary. There's so many lessons you learn.
Yeah.
And families in general, but blended family, it's like this level that's like, I didn't know that I could handle certain stuff until I dealt with it.
Yeah. I think it's also realizing, and we're living in a culture right now where there are a lot of blended families. There's a lot of broken families. And you know what? There is no shade to anyone. But I think that as adults, we have a responsibility when we create children to them first. Right? They did not ask to be here. There's a culture online right now of all men are bad, or there's so many things going around, even with paternity, women who have men sign or take care of these kids only to find out they're not theirs later. And so a lot of times when we're talking about the bitter baby moms or whatever, there's so much that isn't even said or discussed, that we don't know why they're acting that way. We don't understand why, men are speaking up the way that they're speaking up. And everybody kind of deserves a voice in it. So when we're looking, at the blended Black family, and I love the work that you're doing, is that this can actually be a positive thing. Not all relationships work, but this is not a space to bash other people, because we really have no clue what's going on individually. We have no clue what went on in those relationships. And both men and women are hurting. It's not one-sided.
That's right. It's not one-sided, and I agree. Like we have a dynamic where so many different things are going on. And I think I was saying this yesterday about, like, I saw a show on TV, of course, reality TV, and it was kind of like where the mom had this specific type of relationship, not only with the bonus mom, or the bonus mom, but also the dad. And I was like, I think it's important that adults remember that the kid is the most important, that their feelings are the most important, and that we have to put them first. And I know that we walk into the rooms with egos, and he's mine now, and what, but I'm the mom. Like, everybody comes in with something. But just like you said, the reality is that the new person walking in doesn't know what happened in that relationship. So to try to walk in and say, she's bitter. Well, she may not be. She just might be extremely upset because of how things happen, or what happened, or maybe he led her to believe one. Like, you may not have the whole story. I've heard it all. But yes, this is a space where I never want to hear, like, I don't want it to be where we're bashing dads, because there are amazing fathers. I see a lot of dads at my daughter's school every day.
I think that, the actual unfortunate part, and I actually love that more and more of this is coming out on social media, to be honest, is that there's a lot of powerful men, and that these men are actually the ones who sacrifice more than the women. And I might get some backlash in the comments, but I'm here for it, because there's a lot of men who want to be great dads. There's a lot of men who want to be there for their children, want to raise them, are willing to make the relationships work. Not saying that they're perfect, but none of us are. And it's actually, even if we look at the divorce rates, it's majority of women who are filing for divorce and saying, I can't do this. I don't want to be here, and I want to move on to something else and a new person. And again, if you really even go out in these streets afterwards, sometimes you don't even find better. Right. So one of the lessons that I had to really learn was, like, was my relationship really bad, or did we have work to do? And was I willing to listen? Was I willing to hear from another perspective? Was I willing to humble myself in the areas of where he needed more of me? Was I willing to become who he needed me to be, the same way that he has morphed time and time again to be who I needed him to be? We are in such a selfish era, and it's not even about the children. The children have become a pawn at this point in far too many relationships. Yesterday, just on social media, I saw, this dad who's coming to pick up his children with the new girlfriend. The baby mom is like, listen, when your dad gets here, tell him you don't want to go with him. And the children are put in the middle. They're in the middle of all of this. The new woman, who I think should have just stayed in the car, is voicing her opinions. And these are the problems. If we were mature enough to lay down, potentially even get married, have children, build families, and we decide that this doesn't work anymore, we need to be able to have respect for the other person, not just for ourselves, but for the kids, right? Because all of that is a reflection. I'm going to look at this baby mom and say, like, don't you want him to be in your kid's life, but you're fighting for him not to be? It's a little contradictory. And I'm just going to say I blame a lot of the women right now. People might not like it, but as somebody who had to step back and had to look at repairing a relationship after I made a decision because I didn't think I was getting what I needed, I had to really humble myself and see that my partner was a great person. And I know some people might say, well, I don't have a partner like that. But have you given it a chance?
Listen, what you're saying is so mature that it's going to go like this for a lot of people. And that's why there will be those people who get offended because they're not going to understand what you're saying. Like, what? Like, what? Did she just say I'm at fault? We do live in a society where women aren't can do no wrong because we see it in the court systems where you go to court and automatically because she's mom, whether she's a great mom or not, then she gets custody or she gets, whatever it is that she's asking for, she gets it. And I'm not saying that there aren't moms who are deserving of it. I have been one of them. I tried to be the partner who was like, let's just go 50-50 on everything. I just had a person who wasn't responsible enough to do that. And even though he didn't appreciate it then, he had a partner at the time who was. And so I just ended up working with her like, girl, can we just get this thing together?
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. There when grown-up when you're unable to be mature and step in as the adult, leave your ego at the door. If you can't do that, then girl, it's going to be disaster because everybody's going to want their point of view to be the point of view.
And the only one that matters is the one of the children, right? And I think that we're not realizing how our actions are so detrimental to our kids. I have a client right now and she works with parents and families that are raising kids. And what I love about her motto is that she's like, it's your job to raise a successful adult. And so you need to be a picture of a successful adult in order to raise one. And so if there's things that you need to learn or you need to grow in, or you need to just say, hey, maybe I've done this for 20 years, 30 years, whatever, but I'm choosing today to be a different person, it is never too late to humble yourself, to say, I want to grow in this area. And if not for yourself, please do it for your children and their future.
Absolutely. Amen to that. But like I said, I think that takes maturity to be able to step back. Just even what you said you did in your own relationship of like, you had to step back and say, you know what? This wasn't all on him. Some of this was me. And so now I got to, make moves to fix it. And how can I go about fixing it? But you got to be willing to do it for the greater good, which is your child. Like, when you know and understand that that's who the most important person is in the dynamic, not your feelings, not their feelings, then yeah. And also, like you said about the person who wouldn't let tell your dad you don't want to go, like that's hurting him. That's not going to hurt you. Like, you're going to sit pretty on the side and laugh about it. Like, oh, he don't want to go. See, ha ha ha. And he's going to suffer late now and later.
There's a lot of fathers that have been given a bad rap when it's actually the women who are manipulating the situation. And making it difficult. And even some of these women are coming from positions where their dads weren't in the household. Why would you want your kids to have that same experience? We're now going so far to say that we don't need men. I don't know in what world we don't need men and we don't need women. And I think that, as women, we're actually doing ourselves a disservice because you want to build with someone, but you need to be somebody that somebody wants to build with. And that also goes for the men. It's so easy to lay down with someone. And we are in this day and age where we are not protecting our bodies. We're not being conscious of who we lay down with and have children with. And it comes back down to you chose this person to have kids with. You knew the red flags. You saw them. You still decided to do this. You brought life into this world with this person. Don't turn around and act like a victim.
Right.
We had the decision when we chose this person. And, again, some people are not going to like to take that accountability, and I'm okay with that. but you got to choose well first. You
Right.
have to look at this person and say, do I want to have kids with this person? And now, don't get me wrong, people flip the script, people change. There are things that happen, but I'm hoping that there's going to be a woman or a man that looks at this today and says, I want to accept some responsibility for one, where my life's at, two, what my family dynamic looks like, and three, how I can change it.
Absolutely. Yeah, all of what you said is so important. And man, I'm just thinking about how, like, I've talked to clients and said, listen, there was a time that y'all loved each other, because if you didn't, you wouldn't have laid together to have a baby. And not to say that in all situations, everyone who lays together loves each other. Got it.
Yeah.
But for the most part, right, when you choose to have a child with someone, you're making that decision based on the relationship you have with that person. And so why not remember that space? And I've even talked about how you may not be good to me or may not have been good for me as a couple, but that doesn't mean you aren't a good dad. That doesn't mean you're not a good person in general. So why not let that person be a good dad? Right? Why not let him be a good dad if he's a good dad? It didn't work. Got it. I can heal my wounds, right?
Yeah.
As a grown up, but go be a dad. I'm not gonna stop you from doing that. But there are a lot of situations where
And don't create wounds in your children, right? In the sake of quote unquote trying to heal yourself. Like, that's very, very backwards. Your job is to protect your kids. Your job is to love your children and give them the best. And that doesn't mean designer. That means, like, make sure they have clothes, make sure that they're fed, but more importantly, make sure that in all situations they're loved. And if you are preventing the other parent from loving the kids, like, a lot of times the best parent is not the mom. A lot of times, if we look into child support and all of these kinds of things, if you're going to have the kids, you should be able to afford the kids, right? Or if he has more money, then he should have the children, right? A lot of people look at the system and think that the system is right, and it's not. It was rigged. It was rigged back in the 70s when they were trying to break up the Black families, right? This system is a lot bigger than us, but we have taken it on and we have felt liberated as independent women, when really we do need our men and we do need these families to be successful. And we can be successful families, but we have to put down some of this conditioning that we've been a part of and say, no, I want a 2-parent household. I want to have successful children. I want to be a great wife and a great partner. I want to be a great husband. And it's going to take us to do some work. That humility piece, it's work.
it is.
But it's for the betterment of your family. And I can definitely say that as my partner and I, we weren't separated long, but as we've come back together, it's been a completely different shift in terms of, let's have the hard discussions. Let's look at what we're both not getting, right? And let's look at actually how we can be more successful together instead of fighting about what's not right. There's a lot of good if we would take the time to look at it.
Yeah. I think remembering as a couple too, that relationships, how I know growing up, I've always heard relationships are 50-50. And I remember when I got married, my uncle was actually the one who did premarital counseling for me and my husband. And he was like, listen, there's some days where it's not going to be 50-50. Like, your husband's going to be the 80 and you're going to be the 20. Right. And so you just have to know that every day is not going to be where the both of you are given the exact amount. There's going to be days when he's got a great day, when he's having a great day. And there's going to be days when you're the one that has to take the lead. Right. So just go into it understanding that the partnership that you have, that you're both going to put forth the effort into it. And especially, like you said, because it's for the betterment of our family. I will say that I've seen situations where just because the person had more money didn't mean they were the better parent, because that person then didn't have the time. So I do think the better parenting, it can flip flop with, one person has more time, one person has more money. If you work together, you don't have to try to decide that, because you can split it up and say, you know what, I can alleviate some of your stress. I'm going to take him every other weekend, or I'm going to have him if you live in the same state or town. You can be like, we can alternate weeks, or you can have them 2 weeks and I'll have them the second 2 weeks of them, like whatever. But the goal is to help each other out, right? As parents, and not, and just like you said, not using the kid as a pawn. Like, you kids don't want to have to choose. They don't
We're
want to have to pick between us as parents. They want to love us all.
we are doing a lot of harm to our kids, if I could be honest. And whether, there's a lot of people who come with a victim mentality. I went back and forth, I'm fine. Well, no, you're not, right? And the little parts of you that aren't, do you want that for your children? It comes back to, like, we can't erase the decisions that we've made, but we can make better choices moving forward. So even if you are coming from a space where you're not with your partner that you had your child with, and you are now looking for another relationship and you're blending those families, please choose well. Please take your time. Please make sure that this person embodies what you're looking for in not a partner for yourself, but in somebody to raise your child, right? That's actually more important than if you're happy. Please stop fighting the other parent. It's not working for either of you, right? Let's look at how we can work together. Let's look at how we can communicate, and let's keep the eye on the prize for the children. If you're watching this and you haven't yet had kids, please choose well, right? When you are looking at it, it's not about who's flashy, who's fun, who has more money even. The number one thing that you have to look for in a partner is how loving, caring, and supportive they are. You have to look at somebody's character, because that character in a real man and a real woman will be there regardless of what happens. That is what matters. And we are living in a day and age where it's, do you have six figures? Do you have this money? Do you got this car? Do you got this flash? Do you whatever? Are you hot? And these people have no character, no substance to bring to you. And then we want to act like they changed. You chose this. So I think the first thing starts with that accountability. And even if that's one thing, it doesn't have to excuse the things that aren't working or that were bad. But I had to say, I need to be accountable for this part. He had to come and say, I need to be accountable for this part. And then you make a choice together. We are choosing our love. We're choosing our family. We are choosing to do the work. And that doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but we are choosing to move forward together.
Yes. Have the hard conversation. I heard you say that, and I think that's really important too. Like, having that hard conversation of knowing, like, what is your take on religion? Like, what do you see? What do you foresee for our family in regards to, what about money? Like, what are your, what do you want to do in regards to discipline, right? Those things are important, and we don't have those conversations until they're too late. And then when I am not spanking over here and you are spanking over there, then there's this discourse, because we're like, why are you not spanking him? That's what we do in this family. And the mom is, or the dad, whoever that doesn't spank, is like, what are you talking about? We're not spanking. Like, why are you spanking over there? We be missing those conversations, and they definitely need to be taking place.
Yeah, when we, really decided to come back together, we over Christmas created 4 F's for our family. And maybe this will take off, maybe whatever. But the first F was finance, right? Who's going to be in charge of finance? What does finance look like for us as a unit? What does that look like for our family? The next one, which might apply, might not apply, is flame. Some of us, if we could just keep the flame going in our relationship, we might not have separated. Things might not have gone awry. Then it's the family. Who's in charge of the kids? Who is kind of spearheading that? What does our family need? What does that day to day look like of running our household? And then our future. What are we planning for in our future? And all of these intersect. For our future goals to happen, we need finance, right? For the finances to happen, there's maybe somebody who's better at, managing. He's way better at managing it. And I have a business, so I'm great at making more. He makes a lot, but I'm great at, we want an extra 10K, let me go make it. Let's go do this. So the flame is both of our responsibility, right? Both of us want to feel desired, enjoyed, taken care of, nurtured. And of course, the family, like you brought up earlier, Jamie, somebody who is traveling to work or is making, is the breadwinner, more than likely doesn't have the same time as the person who's not. And that's not a knock. It's just understanding our roles and responsibilities, whether this is your immediate family or a blended family. And today I'm really wanting to speak to just families, period, right? But these are things that we do have to discuss, we do have to look at. And most importantly, we need to get back working together instead of feeling like, well, I'm over here doing this and you're not doing this. If we would just take a minute to step back. And there's so many single moms out there that, oh, I'm good. I don't need a man. I don't need this. But if you could do that 50-50 even, like what is bad about that?
Right.
Right now you're doing 100% of it. So what would it look like to be with somebody who says, man, I'm going to be out here, I'm going to make our money, I'm going to take care of us, but you're going to raise the family, and yeah, you're still going to work and you're going to do this, but I'm going to take care of these things. Hey, I'm going to do the day-to-day child rearing, and when the kids are acting up, you're going to step in and be the disciplinarian. We have to have the discussions about what does this look like for us to do it together. And I think we need to get back to some of those roles. It doesn't mean gender roles, but roles and responsibilities that are right for our family.
That's right. I love your 4 F's. I think that if anything, like that could be a great takeaway for people to say, and not just blended families. I always say that these conversations that we're having, even though we're specifically talking about our blended families, everything we're talking about is in a family dynamic in general, right? But I think that those 4 F's are really important for every family, especially if you're a married couple or you are in a partnership with somebody. Those 4 are going to be important. So I hope you all wrote that down. Shana, I'm going to ask you for what's your major tip for today? Like, what's the one thing, if anything, you want the listeners to take away for today?
I think I'm going to give everybody an exercise to do. And the exercise is that I want you to write down the positive things about the person that you parent with, whether this is co parenting or that you parent your biological children with. I want you to really look at them and appreciate all of the things that they do to make your family whole. And I want you to do it and celebrate yourself too. I think we need to spend more time focusing on the positives and less time focusing on the negatives. When you spend a lot of time focusing on the positive things, those negatives become smaller. The energy completely changes. And we can work together in a better way. So my tip for today is every time you feel like you want to cuss the other person, they're not doing the right thing, I want you to be able to go back to that list and say, man, but he really shows up for the kids in this way. Or man, he's really clutch for me when this happens. Or I can always count on him in this way. Or you know what? He wants to be present in his kid's life. And you know what? There's some other people who are running away. There's an NBA star right now who just had a child with somebody and says, I will pay for the child, but I want nothing to do with this child. Is your situation as bad as you think it is? It could always be worse. So let's focus on the positives. And I think on the other side of that, let's also look at the areas that we can do better. Let's humble ourselves. So do your positives list. And then for just you, not the other person, do a humbling list for yourself of where you need to do better, and then start acting on it.
Yes, that's a beautiful takeaway tip. I love it. And it's so funny that Shana and I talk all the time, but Shana does not know that that is actually an exercise in the program that I have. I'm like, you guys have to write this down. There was a time when you guys appreciated each other and you loved each other. Write that down. Like, I want you to know that you have to go back to those. It seems so, and I think the reason why you know it is because you just did it yourself. And that's what happened with me. When you sit down, you humble yourself and you do the work for you, because you're not doing it for them. That's the reality. You're not doing the work because you want to be back with them, because you want to be their friend. No, you're doing it because you know that you have to heal so that you can be better for your children, right? And so I think that that was super dope that you just said that. I was like, look at my girl.
I got it. And Jamie, what I'll say on the healing front too is healing is a choice. My partner and I were just driving back from Kansas City, and there was somebody in my inbox talking about, I got to heal from whatever. And I was like, it sparked this conversation of what is healing? What is healing? Healing is a choice. Healing is a choice to say some shit happened. Something went down. And I'm choosing to not give into that thing. I'm choosing to not let that thing define me. I'm choosing to move past this. And that might take time. It might take repetition,
That's
but
right.
it's a choice. So I'm not with victimhood. I'm not with the blaming. So if whatever that healing needs to look like for you, close the door on it. Close the door on it and make a choice, because you know what? Your life could be over tomorrow. How do you want to live? You don't have to live in that anymore.
Amen to that. And I am going to now let you share with all the beautiful people where they can find you on social media, and let them know, like, if you have anything specific going on right now.
Sure. So you can find me. I love Instagram. So on Instagram at theshanarobinson.co. And you know what? If this spoke to you today, if it was enlightening for you today, feel free to shoot me a message. If it was polarizing for you and you didn't like it, you could leave messages under this and we'll come back to those. Don't bring that to my inbox, because it's really just holding up a mirror for you to make choices for yourself. So if you felt uncomfortable about anything that was said, just hold up that mirror to yourself and see what that looks like. Things that I have coming up, as I said, I'm an image consultant and I work with female business owners who are really ready to increase their financial earning potential. So, if you're out here, you have a service-based business specifically, and you're interested in working on your earning potential, then that's something that we could talk about. That's my life's work that I do, because I believe, especially as mothers, we got to make sure that we have our income. We got to make sure that we can make moves for our families, for our children, and not because we're not getting it from a man, but because we contribute to our families and we want the best for them. So that's where you can find me.
Thank you so much, y'all. That's definitely Shana's life work. She does a great job of it. I'm always like, girl, you're an image consultant. Like, you just make people over. And when I say make people over, I don't just mean image over. If you've ever worked with Shana, if you ever work with her at all in any capacity, right? Shana and I were in a group together, and just being in her presence, it could be 30 minutes. Me and Shannon was on the phone for 30 minutes once. And then after that, it was hours. But she will transform your life, okay? Confidence builder. And not that she's pouring into you to say, this is what you are. She just kind of makes you feel like you know what you know because you know it, and then show up as that person. And so I am so grateful to have encountered Shana. I'm so blessed that we get to have this growing and budding friendship. And I thank you for being on my podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, and to talk about family. I love the work that you're doing and the message that you have for the world, because you know what? Things happen and we do end up in, different family dynamics, but there's always a positive that can come out of it. So keep doing the work. Thank you so much for having me for this type of discussion. And I can't wait to see what happens next with you.
Thank you. And people, do not be afraid. Do not be alarmed. If you did not catch what she just said in terms of her social media, they will be in the show notes. So you're not going to miss out. I will make sure that you get in contact with her if you need to. But Shana, as I shared with you previously, before we go, I must pray us out of here.
Let's do it.
All right. So, Father God, thank you so much for this connection. This is a divine connection. I do not see any encounter that I have with others as a mistake or a coincidence. I know it's ordained by you. So I'm just saying thank you. I'm grateful. Everything that Shana stated today on this podcast episode was fire. Like, the people who encounter this message are going to be blessed. And if they are wise enough to take the counsel that she's given, they're going to be humbled, and they're going to show that mirror to themselves and say, you know what, I have to stop and take accountability and do the things that I need to do, the work within myself, so that I can show up as my best self. And like I said, not for the other person, but for themselves. I know that this podcast episode is going to bless so many others, and even those who become offended. I hope in those moments that they take the time to stop and say, why is this offending me? Why do I feel these feelings that I'm feeling when I'm hearing her say these things? That sparks something in them to dig a little bit deeper. I know that this whole entire session was so that people can understand the power of healing humbling, holding yourself accountable, and being able to move on. So I hope that that's the takeaway that they receive from it. I thank you again for this beautiful blessing, this beautiful connection. I ask that you bless, keep, cover, protect Shana and her family. I know that they are going to continue to thrive. And I just ask that you continue to cover us all in your son's mighty name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen and amen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much again, Shana. Listen, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. God bless you. Tune in next time.